After raising my son for 14 years, Elle discovered I'm not his biological father. My wife took him away because things have finally worked out, and they can be a happy family with his real dad. The situation turned around when my son revealed this in court, and now my wife is pulling her hair out. This is a bit of an emergency, so I'll get right into it. I, 40 male, had been married to my soon-to-be ex-wife Megan. Or at least, I believed he was my son for all these years. Anyway, Megan and I had met at work, and we had only been dating for 1 year when she found out that she was pregnant. I was kind of skeptical about having a baby so early on in our relationship, but she wanted to continue with the pregnancy. So I decided to support her, and we moved in together after we found out about the pregnancy. When Johnny was born, it did not even occur to me to get a paternity test because Megan and I were in love with each other, and by then, I was more than sure that Johnny was my son. I felt very connected to him, and he even resembled me because both of us had dark hair and eyes. So I literally had no reason to be suspicious of anything. However, a couple of months ago, I found out that he's actually not my biological son, and Megan had been playing me for a fool all along. About 3 months ago, she came clean to me that she had been having an affair with her high school sweetheart, Nan, for the past couple of months. Even in the beginning of our relationship, she had had a bit of a fling with him while we were together, and she had never told me about it. After that, she got pregnant. One of the major reasons she and Nan had to part ways after high school was because he was not very serious about his life and had chosen not to go to college. Back then, he had still been living with his parents and was jumping from one job to another every couple of months. She figured that she needed stability in her life, which is why she had chosen to be with me because I was very career-driven. She said that if she decided to stay with me, she would be betting on the right horse. But now she had realized that money wasn't everything, and she was in love with Nan. So she wanted to build a life with him. Besides, he had had enough time to change his ways, and now he was a business owner himself. So she really didn't have to worry about money anymore. Back when she was coming clean to me, she told me that she had had a paternity test conducted and knew that Johnny was not my son right from the beginning but had chosen to keep her mouth shut about it because I seemed to be very happy to be a father, and she did not want to ruin our relationship by talking about her past. She also made Nan promise never to speak of this affair that they had ever again because she did not want to risk our relationship, and for the sake of her happiness, he had stayed away. However, they had reconnected at a high school reunion almost 6 months before she finally told me the truth, and they had rekindled their relationship once more. Because he was well settled and he was still in love with her, and she had realized that she was still in love with him as well, she had to leave. It was a horrible time for me because I had been with this woman for so long. I had built a life with her, and yet I was getting screwed over like it meant nothing to her. Anyway, after she told me the truth, she left the house with all her things, but Johnny continued to stay with me because he did not want to go with her. She hadn't even consulted with me before telling him the truth, and he already knew everything before I had even come home from work. So both of us ended up having to console each other while we cried since our lives had been turned upside down. I knew that no matter what happened with the divorce, I was going to make sure that we had shared custody of Johnny because, regardless of his biological parentage, he was my son through and through. I had raised him, and nobody could take that away from me, not Nan and not even Megan. I spoke to my lawyer and filed for a divorce within hours of finding out the truth, and the terms of my divorce petition were pretty simple and fair. I was going to keep everything that we had, and she had better not hope for alimony because she had been a stay-at-home mom for the past after Johnny was born. In spite of all of my support, she had cheated on me. She had already been using me for money for all the years that we had been together. I was not going to allow that to happen any longer. Of course, she was not in agreement with that and contested the terms of the divorce and demanded alimony as well as a huge settlement amount. I was ready to fight for that, I didn't mind. But she made things much worse by filing for full custody 3 weeks ago because apparently she and Nan were planning on relocating to another city so they could open up a branch of his business there as well, and they wanted to take Johnny with them. I would be given visitation rights, but she demanded full custody since things have finally worked out so she could play happy family with Nan now, just because it was convenient for her. There was no way that I was going to allow that to happen, and since we could not sort this out in mediation, this matter ended up going to family court. I was pretty confident that this would be a cakewalk for me, but she and Nan started lying through their teeth about what kind of person I was, and I had to work really hard to prove them wrong, which is what has been complicating everything. Even though Johnny himself has said that he would like to stay here with me since he has grown up here, they are doing everything in their power to make it seem like Johnny is misguided and I'm the one manipulating him. They think that I'm too much of a workaholic to be able to take care of him on my own, and he would be better off living with his mother. There's also the fact that I'm not actually a biological parent to him, which is why everything is taking twice the time to be resolved. Ever since the divorce proceedings started and Megan moved out, we had come to an informal agreement about how we were going to split our time with Johnny. So far, we had an arrangement where he would spend the first 4 days of the week with Nathan and Megan and would come back to me for the weekend. I thought that this was the arrangement that we would stick to even after the divorce, but they made everything far more complicated than it needed to be by deciding to relocate to another city and filing for full custody out of the blue. So we have been locked in a custody battle for the past couple of weeks. But when we were in family court the other day, Johnny said something that sent everyone into a frenzy. This was the first time that he had been actively involved in the court proceedings, and at one point, he said that so far he had wanted to stay here with me and he was still going to stick to that, but not just because his life was based here. He also said that he had overheard Megan and Nathan speaking on the phone to their lawyer the night before, and he had overheard them discussing how they were going to portray me as the bad guy. He started mentioning a bunch of lies that they had come up with, which were far worse than what they had come up with earlier before.